When you picture New York City, what comes to mind? Probably skyscrapers, right? Wall Street, Broadway's bright lights, all that steel and ambition. But what if I told you that underneath all that concrete, there's a buried past, a forgotten beginning that started way before America was even a thing?
What if the very DNA of the city that never sleeps actually comes from somewhere else entirely? And that's exactly what we're going to dig into in this explainer. We're going to peel back the layers of history to find a different city, with a different name and a very, very different story.
So our investigation starts by digging, metaphorically, right under the modern metropolis to find a story that's been paved over for centuries, the story of Dutch Manhattan.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. Go back 400 years, long before the taxis, before the United States itself. Dutch ships are arriving at this lush, wooded island, home to the Lenape people. They see pure opportunity, a gateway to the New World, and they name their tiny new settlement New Amsterdam. Now, this whole Dutch era was super short, but wow, was it impactful. It all starts in 1624 when the settlement is founded. Just 2 years later, you have that pivotal land deal. By 1653, they're already building defenses, and then in a flash, it's over. 1664, the English roll in. We're talking about a 40-year period that would literally shape the next 400.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that moment in 1626, because it's a deal that has just echoed through history. The so-called purchase of Manhattan Island. It's a foundational story for sure, but it is way more complex than just a simple real estate deal.
60 guilders. That's the number, right? It's the one everyone remembers. The Dutch governor, Peter Minuit, traded goods worth about that much for the entire island of Manhattan. I mean, it sounds like the bargain of the millennium. But the real story here, it isn't about the price. It's about perception.
And this is where you see the huge disconnect. On one side, you have the Dutch, who are thinking in terms of permanent legal ownership, a deed, a transfer, it's theirs now. But on the other side, the Lenape people likely sought as an agreement to share the land, to use it together. This fundamental misunderstanding, this clash of worldviews, that is the controversial event that a global capital was built.
So the Dutch lost control in 1664. You'd think, okay, that's the end of their influence, right? Wiped away with the flag, but you'd be totally wrong. The Dutch DNA of New York is hiding in plain sight, embedded in the very map of the city today. And this is where it gets really cool. Think about Wall Street. It's not a metaphor for money. It's named for the literal wall, the Wallstraat, that the Dutch built back in 1653. The heart of global finance today stands on the line of an old wooden fence. And Broadway? That was Breedway, the Broadway, the colony's main road. And these echoes go way beyond just a few streets. The very names of some of New York's most famous neighborhoods are direct descendants of their Dutch origins. Brooklyn? That comes from Brooklyn. Harlem is named after the Dutch city of Haarlem. The city is literally speaking Dutch to us every single day.
There's this quote that just hits the nail on the head. These aren't just fun facts or bits of trivia. They really are living fossils, still guiding millions of people through a modern city, tracing the footsteps of a colony most people have forgotten.
But New Amsterdam's legacy is so much more than just names on a map. The Dutch brought a whole different vibe. While other colonies were focused on conquest, New Amsterdam was built for business, on commerce, on diversity, and a certain kind of tolerance that welcomed Africans, Jewish refugees, Europeans of all kinds. It was a multicultural hub long before the idea of the American melting pot was even a glimmer in anyone's eye.
But of course, empires shift. In 1664, English warships sailed into the harbor. The Dutch governor, Peter Suijsevent, he was completely outnumbered. He surrendered without a single shot being fired. And just like that, New Amsterdam was officially renamed New York.
But here's the twist. This is the amazing part. The English changed the flag and the name, but they didn't really change the system. They kept the Dutch laws, the street grid, and that spirit of multicultural tolerance. And why? Well, because it worked. It was good for business. The city's operating system, you could say, stayed Dutch.
So how does all of this connect to the city we know today? Well, every skyscraper, every single bustling street corner, it all stands on these foundations, laid centuries ago.
New York didn't just pop into existence. The city's famous ambition, its role in global trade, its incredible diversity, these core traits are not modern inventions. They are a direct inheritance from that small Dutch trading post, built on a really complex history of deals, dreams, and this incredible blending of cultures. So, the next time you find yourself walking the streets of Manhattan, try to look beyond the glass and the steel. Listen for the echoes of a different language in the street signs. And just remember that before it was New York, it was New Amsterdam. And its forgotten Dutch foundations, they're still holding up the city that never sleeps.